In the 6th century, the Gupta Empire fractured. Its collapse left a sudden void of authority across the eastern territories of the Indian subcontinent. Ambitions for a new empire immediately met a physical barrier. Ancient Bengal was a labyrinth of thousands of miles of winding rivers, dense mangrove jungles, and thick, shifting mud. Every year, intense monsoons and severe flooding redrew the map. An imperial army attempting to march across this delta would find its logistics drowned by months of torrential rain and impassable waterways. This environment transformed the delta into a natural, unconquerable fortress. Local warlords who understood the tides in the marshes could safely ignore the decrees of distant emperors. Geography divided the region into two political worlds. The stable northern core of Varendra allowed for large-scale imperial administration, while the southeast, regions like Vanga and Samatata, remained isolated by a dense network of rivers. Warrior kings like Gopachandra thrived in this isolation. He built an independent fleet in the southeast, using the river barriers to maintain a kingdom entirely separate from the northern powers. By the 7th century, the Khadga dynasty realized that holding these territories required a permanent administrative presence. They began securing their borders by integrating royal bureaucracy into the local landscape. They utilized a system called brahmadeya, tax-free land grants issued to Brahmins and religious figures. By placing these loyal grantees along the fertile riverbanks, the Khadga kings established decentralized hubs of authority that managed the harvest and monitored the frontiers. These decrees were etched into heavy copper plates. Unlike palm leaves, these metal records survived the delta's monsoons, creating a permanent, binding legal reality that local populations could see and touch. These localized land grants allowed kings in the southeast to maintain self-sustaining power pockets. They collected revenue and raised militias locally, remaining autonomous even when major empires claimed the north. Historical accounts often describe the Pala Empire as a centralized, secure power that dominated the entirety of Bengal for hundreds of years. The Palas projected power through massive infrastructure. From their northern strongholds, they built complex brick monuments and sprawling monasteries, signaling absolute control over regional wealth. That control was fragile. In the 10th century, a tribal faction known as the Kambojas revolted. Their leader, Rajapala, led an aggressive strike that overran the northern core and seized the imperial title, Lord of Gauḍā. This sudden usurpation showed that the northern empires were constantly vulnerable. The very wealth and centralization they worked to build made them a target for internal rebellions and tribal incursions. As the north spiraled into conflict, the isolated southeast became a sanctuary and a prize for ambitious migrating warlords. A commander named Jata Varman arrived from the west, following the path of the invading Kalachuri kings. He violently displaced local rebels and established a new Varman stronghold in the southern delta. Samala Varman stabilized the frontier by embedding loyal administrators into the soil. He granted Brahmin settlers vast tracts of fertile riverbanks. These grantees managed rice production, funneling wealth to the capital to consistently fund the military and repel northern invaders. By delegating power to a local agricultural administration, the Varmans built a political fortress. Their survival depended on this defensive web of land grants that the northern empires could not penetrate by force. In the mid-12th century, the Sena dynasty swept across Bengal. Their military expansion finally crushed the Varman kings and temporarily unified the delta. The Senas barely established their administration before the 13th century Turkish Islamic invasions arrived from the west. This new cavalry force shattered the Sena armies and rapidly seized all the major inland cities. In response, local dynasties retreated into the most hostile, swampy jungles of Harakela and Samatata. They used the impenetrable mangrove waterways to bog down the invading horsemen. Out of these marshes, the later Deva dynasty emerged as a final stronghold. They turned the flooded landscape into a defensive barrier that effectively halted the spread of imperial rule. Kings like Danujamadava Dasharatha Deva maintained their independence for decades. Despite being surrounded by superior military powers, they issued their own edicts and protected their regional identity from behind their river defenses. These centuries of conflict demonstrate that power in early Bengal functioned through regional resilience. While the northern empires were vulnerable to any strike that captured their capital, the minor kings of the periphery survived by building their authority into the very riverbanks and soil of the delta.